Well, it looks like our team, the New York Giants' arch rivals in the NFC East, have both been eliminated from the playoffs. That's because Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts had more turnovers than a bakery. If you want to hear two guys who don't sugarcoat anything, go to www.NTTFGPOD.com and subscribe. I'm Rock.
And I'm Archie.
Well, our opinions, they might not matter to some, but...
What are you doing in there?
It's a podcast.
Immature, crass, trashy. And those are their good qualities. These poor schmucks are a couple of IQ points away from eating paste. But when it comes to music, sports, and comedy, well, that's all they know. You're listening to
Not These Two Fucking Guys.
Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast.
What's up, everybody? I'm Archie.
I'm Rock.
And this is Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast. We just want to give a shout out today to Blank Space Studios in Midland Park, New Jersey. Thank you for having us. This is pretty fucking awesome. And hope you enjoy this interview. And here we go.
It's very intimate.
Our guest today...
I've always wanted a threesome, but I didn't think it'd be like this.
Our guest today has had one wild ride, interacting with the who's who list of celebs. Entertainment journalist, TV and radio personality, and now author. A trilogy of books to be released on 30 years of celebrity interviews. Welcome to Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast, Chauncey Hayden.
How you doing, guys?
What's up?
Do I go like this?
That's cold handshake.
There you go, yeah.
Because it's 18 degrees here in New Jersey. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is not a fashion statement. This is really cold in here. No, go ahead.
You flew all the way from Ireland to come be with us?
I did. Thank you for covering the airfare, by the way. I didn't know your budget.
He's all class.
I tell you guys, I recommend coming on this show. Like, treat you like gold.
So now you've been in Ireland for quite a while now.
Almost 7 years now.
7 years. And for the people out there, like, what would make you go to Ireland?
Oh, it's a great... Yeah, we had a lot of film in the camera. It's a crazy story, but I'll give you a condensed version.
Perfect.
I was working at Steppin Out, and at that point, it was like things were getting crazy there. Like my foot was on the gas all the way, and I was heading right for a brick wall. Like it was just craziness was going on. And during that time period, I met this little young Irish girl in a bar in New York City called Rosie O'Grady's. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And I looked at her and I said, "That's a pretty girl." And she came over to me and she goes, "You have really nice teeth." And I'm like, "I know what I said." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, I really like your teeth." And then she walked away. And I'm like, that was the strangest thing I've ever heard. To make this even shorter, then she had my baby.
Wow, that's a big.
I'm leaving a few things out, but
big jump right
there.
there.
I'm just jumping ahead.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
she tells me she's pregnant, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go. I changed my number. I was not a good guy. I was in my early 50s. She was a young kid, and I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So she gets on a plane, goes back to Ireland, and I'm like, I dodged the bullet. She went back to Ireland. Thank God. A year goes by, 9 months go by, and I'm with my wife.
Gotcha.
That's a whole nother part of the story. And she goes, hey, you got a letter from Dublin. Who do you know in Dublin? I go, I don't know anyone in Dublin. I said, open it up. And it's pictures of my baby being born. Yeah.
Like live action shots?
Yeah. Like as it's happening. And she goes, you have a child in Ireland. And I remember looking at the photos. I'm like, I remember this. I heard about this.
Yeah.
And she didn't say a word. She walked out of the room, handed me the photos. And from that day on, my life changed completely.
I can imagine.
But it was a slow process. The first 2 years, I was still in that dodge the bullet mode, and I was still, what do I do? I know I still want to be a dad. I still don't want to be a dad, but then the guilt started setting in. And after about 3 years, looking up at the ceiling every night, I said, I'm going to get on a plane. I'm going to go to Ireland, and I'm going to find this kid. I need to physically look at this child.
Yes.
I need to see this child.
Yeah.
So I got on a plane, went there for the weekend, drove. I didn't know where they lived. I didn't know except for the town. It's a town called Monaghan. And I just started knocking on doors. Just knocking on doors, going,
wow.
Do you know this family? Do you know this child?
So you had no you had no connection with
No,
the mother?
just they said "fuck you" once, but that was about the extent of our conversation.
Yeah.
And so I'm knocking on doors. Finally, it's the last day, and I gotta head back to New Jersey, and I haven't had any luck. And I'm sitting in this pub. I'm telling it's just me and this bartender, and I'm telling him my story. And he's like, I know your daughter, and I know the mother of your daughter. And I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. She goes, oh, great girl. Mm-hmm. And then this old woman comes in, sits at the end of the bar. And she said, and then she orders a drink, and she said, I took off today from the Garage Theater. It's finally good to have a day off. And I remember back from the day, the mother of my child saying her mother worked for this theater in Ireland. So I said to the bartender, he's pouring her a drink, I said, that's not the grandmother, is it? And he goes, it is. It's the grandmother. So the last day, there's the grandmother. And I'm like, I can't believe it. He goes, no, don't cause a scene. Wait till she goes to the bathroom, then go over, and when she comes out, introduce yourself. I said, okay. So about 8 pints later, this lady hasn't gotten off her chair, and my kidneys are floating. And I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta go to the bathroom for real. And I gotta walk right past this person. Yeah. He goes, no, you've been good. He goes, go ahead, go introduce yourself. Yeah. So I walk up to her, and I say, do you know who I am? She said, I've been sitting here for 8 fucking pints waiting for you to introduce yourself. She goes, why do you think I'm here, asshole?
That's great.
And the tears started pouring, and I'm going to hug her, and she's like, don't hug, no hugging. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And so she goes, look, don't do this here. Meet me for coffee tomorrow at this coffee shop in town, and we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it. So I go to the coffee shop next day, and I buy toys and teddy bears and balloons, and I got all this stuff, photos of my family, and I meet with her, and she says, I'm going to tell you about your daughter. And she goes into this whole spiel. She's beautiful, she sings, she dances, she does this, she loves this, and then tears are coming, and I'm like, she goes, now let me tell you what I think of you. She goes, you are a piece of shit. You're never going to see her. You can take your balloons and your teddy bears and your pictures, and you can shove them up your ass and enjoy the rest of your stay in Monaghan. And she walked out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was kind of, I call that day one of my journey.
Gotcha.
And so throw all my shit in the garbage, get on the plane, go home, and when I got back home, about 6 months went by before I said, listen, what are you going to do? You're going to wait till a 30-year-old redheaded kid knocks on your door and you're an old man and says, I think you're my dad? Yeah. Or are you going to move to Ireland, one-way ticket, and fight like hell to be a daddy to this little girl? What are you going to do? And I made the decision. I gave away everything I had, sold what I could, got a one-way ticket. Everybody said you'll be back in 3 weeks. You're out of your mind. You can't do this. And landed, drove to Monaghan, which isn't like Vegas. It's a much different kind of environment. And it has one street, by the way, one street and a couple of cows. And
all right, so it wasn't such a coincidence you ran into her in a bar because
no. In fact, the mother told me later. She said, we passed you 3 times on the street. So that's a true story. She goes, your daughter thought you were a homeless man from Dublin.
Oh my God.
Because she goes, people here don't wear baseball caps. Only homeless people from. She goes, is he a homeless man from Dublin?
Oh,
yeah.
Shit.
So I went there and went to the court, and I filed a petition for guardianship. And if you can imagine, my cousin Vinny goes to Ireland. That's my story. So here we are 7 years later. My daughter is with me, full time, pick up from school every day, take her to school, make her dinner every night, and she's my best buddy. And it's a great ending to a traumatic story.
because it could have went sideways. It could have went different.
It could have went a lot of ways.
Could've went a lot of
And a lot of times it did go a lot of ways. I mean, there were times I was ready to give up and come home. There were a lot of nights crying in the pillow, a lot of nights where the police came with handcuffs. There were, and in Ireland, they take you to a dungeon. It's not like here. Like there, you go to the dungeon, and it's different. And
wow.
Yeah, it's quite a story. And that's the short version, by the way.
Gotcha.
And I'll tell you, so we have, obviously being in a band, we have a lot of mutual friends on Facebook. So we became friends somehow on Facebook. And I remember watching your story unfold.
Yes.
And it was like watching like a soap opera. And then at the end, he's like, "Oh my God, he has the kid in his life."
Yeah.
No, but it was great. It was, obviously it felt for you for the tough times, but it was great.
Facebook kept me sane because I had no connections to anybody there. I was so isolated and alone. And if I could invent on Facebook what was happening as it was happening, I would have lost my mind. And a lot of times I got in trouble with the court for that because they have a law in Ireland called the in-camera law where you're not allowed to say or do anything in what goes on in family court. They put you in prison immediately for that.
Wow.
And anytime I did, there was the mother in court the next week saying, "Judge, look what he did, look what he posted." But it kept me sane. It did,
You think about, because I have two daughters.
How old?
3 and 5.
Oh my God.
Rocky's got a daughter.
How old?
12.
Oh, my daughter's gonna be 12 in March. So
Good luck to
you. Yeah. See this? I used to have your hair.
And you have to think about, at the time, like what's going to be the best for her.
You know what they say? They say a woman becomes a mother the day she becomes pregnant, but a man doesn't become a father until he sees the eyes of his child. And I think that's true because I couldn't have given a shit until I saw that picture of that little kid that looked like silly putty, And in that image, I saw myself, and I said, "What's this kid gonna think when she's my age? My dad was a piece of shit. He never, he couldn't be bothered to fly to Ireland because I wasn't important enough to be in his life." I kept thinking that, and I said, she's gonna look back and say, "My dad's a hero. My dad came looking for me, and he raised me, and he found me, and he saved me." And that's the story I wanted to be her story.
Good.
Not I had to go look for my dad's. I didn't want that story.
So it's, hypothetically speaking, we have years, but, like say she goes to college somewhere else. You think, will we go? We'll follow?
Oh,
do you see
well,
yourself
there's already a plan for that.
done in Ireland? Like, are you?
See, I'm a disabled vet.
Okay.
So her college is paid for by the VA.
God bless.
100% paid for, anywhere she wants to go. So the plan, I keep leaving brochures of Florida all over the house. and she's only 11 right now.
Yeah, little messaging.
But, I just leave books on Florida.
What's this?
I buy plastic palm trees. I do everything I can because my goal is I'm house shopping now in Florida. I want to buy a house in Florida, have her go to any university, any school in Florida, and have her stay with me and continue our journey while she gets an education there. So that's the plan.
Good. I'm glad that this story has a nice ending, and there's still to be made.
And thank you for not saying happy ending, because that kind of makes the story sick.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. It's a nice ending.
It's a nice ending.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's gonna look back and, like you said, you're the hero because you literally uprooted your entire existence and moved to a foreign country.
Yeah. She has other names for me now, but but one day I think she'll look back and say, Dad, thank you. If she says thank you one day, what you did for me helped me so much in my life. That would be awesome if that's what I got out of it, because I have no regrets. It was the greatest, and it changed me as a person. I'm a completely different person than I was. I was reckless, and I was going down a dark road. And without her, I don't even think I'd be alive today.
Wow.
Yeah, I absolutely wouldn't be alive.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep.
It all happens for a reason.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. It all happens for a reason. That's right. She, people say, "Oh, your daughter's so lucky," and I always tell those people, "No, she's my angel. Like, she saved me. I didn't save her.
Yeah.
I think God sent her to me to save me, not the other way around. That's how I see it."
Gotcha. Awesome. And I say, if it wasn't for Rocky, I would probably be famous by now.
You notice I'm always turning this way because and I'm whispering to you. And I'm saying he's holding you back. So the lead weight on the right's holding us both back. No, this is awesome, guys.
So one of the biggest publications in New Jersey, as far as we're concerned, Steppin Out.
Oh yeah.
It was like the holy grail.
We lived by Steppin Out. I'm either gonna go see a band, I'm gonna go to a club, or maybe if you go in the back, you might
You're gonna find love.
You're gonna find love. You'll find love.
You'll find a lot of love.
Many a times, our old band was published in there. They did articles. It was just I picked it up religiously growing up.
It was amazing.
And it was amazing.
Yeah,
you could find anything that you wanted to do in New Jersey.
Well, the thing was, it was.
Describe what it was to the people who aren't from this area.
Every city, every area in the country seems to have something similar.
Yeah.
That penny saver that sits on top of the cigarette machine that people pick up with ads in it. But this was different. This Stepping Out was like nothing anyone in the country had ever seen because. I'm going to blow some smoke up my ass now, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because the people that started Stepping Out, they made it that typical penny saver. Mm-hmm. You know, they have the weather on the cover, and they would have a bar advertising on the cover or something along those lines. And it was about 16 pages, and you know, your fingers would get full of ink when you touched it.
Yep.
And all right, this is going to sound a little crazy. But I was living across the street from McMurphy's pub, not far down the road from here, and I had a head injury. I had fractured my skull. This 19-year-old girl who weighed about 100 pounds at the time said, "I can take my kneecap and throw it over your head." And I said, "No, I don't think you can do it, but I don't want you to even try to do it." And she goes, "Watch this." And she takes her leg, swings up in the air, and like a sledgehammer hit me right here and fractured my skull.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I was like a car accident.
I mean, hearing these stories so far, you just got started. Note to self: don't go to a bar with Chauncey.
Yeah, only bad things happen. So I had to go to Valley Hospital.
Valley
here.
Hospital?
Yeah, and I was there for about a week, and I was in bad shape. And the day I was getting discharged, the surgeon said, "Whatever you do for the next 6 months, don't bump your head. Don't go skiing. Don't play sports. Don't do anything. Just easy."
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, no problem." So I get home from the hospital. I'm home for about 10 minutes, and I see that my speaker on the wall, the plug on the floor was out.
Here we go.
So I get under the bed, and I'm reaching for the plug to plug in my speaker, and my elbow wraps around the wire, and I pull it. And from the top of the ceiling, the wooden speaker lands on my head.
Didn't take long.
And within a half hour of that doctor saying, "Whatever you do, don't bump your head," nothing.
Christ.
I'm in the emergency room. And he looked at me. He goes, I just came out of the shitter. Like, what the fuck? And I had 2 weeks in the hospital. And I was really in bad shape. Like my thoughts, I couldn't speak right.
Yeah.
Everything was a very traumatic brain injury. So I was told to help speed things along in the recovery to start painting. So I began to paint, and I painted anything I could find. I got into Sinead O'Connor's music. And on my wall, I painted her face on my wall. And I just looked at it, and I was obsessed with it. I became obsessed with her. Anything to do with Sinead O'Connor. And so now I'm thinking, this is not enough. I gotta meet her. I gotta meet her. So I was thinking, how can I meet Sinead O'Connor? She's coming to the Garden State Art Center. It was called back then. And I said, think. What can you do? And I said, this Stepping Out was across the street, 16 pages with the weather on the cover. So I took it home, I took scissors, and I cut out the logo. And I scotch taped it to a piece of paper, and I typed on a typewriter, I'm Chauncey Hayden, I'm the editor of this magazine, and we would like to do a cover story on Sinead O'Connor for an upcoming issue. And I get a call back from a publicist, Elaine Schock, and she goes, we approve this, you can meet her, backstage 1 hour before the show starts, And I'm like, well, should I get a knife? Do I kill her when I meet her? Like, what am I supposed to do as a stalker? What's my responsibility? Like, do I kidnap her? Do I put a bag over her head? Do I just punch her and run?
Do I give her a picture of the Pope?
Yeah. I go, what do I do when I meet her? And so I thought, why don't I just really interview her? Like, actually interview her. Instead of killing her, I'm going to interview her. So I get backstage and I interview.
Like 20 years in prison.
Yeah,
or
I had all these sick thoughts of what I could do to her, and I said I'm going to actually interview her. So I did, and it was the night that she refused to sing if they played the Star Spangled Banner before the show.
Okay.
So it made world news, and Frank Sinatra said he was going to kick her in the ass if he ever saw her.
Got it.
I had the only interview. First time, just a stalker who got back there. So I go to the aquarium. And I say to the aquarian, I got a great interview with Sinead O'Connor. Do you want to buy it from me? And they told me to fuck off. They said, we don't need shit,
Yeah.
They hung up, blew me off. So then I went to Steppin Out, who I actually faked.
Yeah.
And I never met them, didn't know anything about them. So I go there and I go, hey, little I know, the guy that ran it was this little Irish guy. And he liked Sinead O'Connor too.
Yeah.
So I said, I have an interview with her. Would you like to run it in the magazine? He goes, oh man, we'd love to do that, but we can't pay you anything. But I'll tell you what, we'll run it on the cover and give you your credit, give you your name. I said, that would be awesome. So I'm going to get my name on the cover of this magazine, and you're going to run my interview. He said, yeah. So he did it, and it got in the world news, like they were quoting it in Australia.
First one.
About this. Yeah, my first one.
First.
And so this guy from Steppin Out goes, can you do this all the time? He goes, we need someone to do the covers. Wow. And I said, this is the easiest thing in the world. You just pretend you're a journalist, ask the person that's in charge, and they say yeah. So I said, yeah. So
talk about manifestation.
Yeah.
he gave me this little desk above the Ford dealership in Westwood, New Jersey. And from that day on, this is in like late 80s, early 90s, early 90s. From that day on, every single week, because you remember Stepping Out was a weekly.
Yeah.
Every single week for the next 20 years, I did a celebrity cover story for Stepping Out.
That's fucking awesome.
That's how it happened.
That's fun.
That's
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking
Crazy, right?
Yeah. That's like a straight up like you said, like I'm gonna manifest.
Well, you created something that wasn't
career.
there.
It wasn't there. And so the point is, now all these penny savers that are all over the United States above every bar, this one became different. Because this one started getting, like if you look at the sheet, G. Gordon Liddy from Watergate. Like, I thought he'd be a cool guy to talk to.
He has no idea about history or geography.
Do you even know who G. Gordon Liddy is?
No.
No.
Is that who, Gigi Allen?
Let me do another
Oh, you
one.
mean the guy who throws shit at people?
Let me do another one. James Hetfield, Metallica.
Got it.
All right. So
There you go. Now you're in his wheelhouse.
all right. Now I'm reeling in. So
Do tell.
So I started getting these names and getting these Q&As like in depth, and I'll tell you where it originated from. I was a big Playboy reader when I was 12. Used to love to read. I used to love to read Playboy. My dad kept a stash of them under his mattress, and I found the stash. But what I really liked to do, besides what I liked to do, was if you remember Playboy, they always had a celebrity interview. It'd be 3 or 4 black and white boxes of their faces with the pull-out quote from the interview, and then this like 8-page Q&A. And they would have everyone in the world, from Robin Williams to the Prime Minister of France. So it could be anybody, but it was always John Wayne. There were these interviews, and I was obsessed with reading them. So I did Stepping Out similar, where it would be a picture and then a Q&A, and it would be like 4 or 5 pages. And so that became my model in my head of how this would work. And the media, the mainstream media, all the New York newspapers, Time Magazine, New York Magazine, the nighttime TV shows, Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien, started quoting Stepping Out and started showing Stepping Out on the TV.
Yeah.
I was just telling my boy Alan over here, sitting over here, one of the most remarkable things I've ever saw was, remember Entertainment Tonight, the TV show? So I'm home one night, watching Entertainment Tonight, and they say, coming up after this commercial break, they would always do the magazine cover of the week. And they go, we have the tie this week for the magazine cover of the week. And I'm like, oh, I wonder who it is. It's probably Entertainment Weekly and us. And it comes back for commercial. And you see Vogue magazine. And I'm like, oh, what's the next one? Steppin Out.
Wow.
And there's Steppin Out Magazine next to Vogue. Our listeners say it's a tie. And I'm like, do they even know do they know what they're doing? Like, someone should be fired. Like, someone needs to get fired. Like, this is crazy. But that's how Steppin Out became that.
Yeah.
Like, not just in Bergen County or New Jersey, but another great analogy. I'll tell you how big it became. My wife at the time was in Greece.
Okay.
She's in Greece on vacation, and she's at the bar by the beach, and she was with her girlfriends or boyfriends, I don't know, whatever it was, but she's with these people, and they're talking about home, and the bartender says, "So, what do your husbands do?" She goes, "Mine's a writer, does like interviews." She goes, "Oh, like what kind of interviews?" They interview celebrities. Oh, like Chauncey Hayden.
Wow.
Seriously?
And she in Greece.
Yeah, in Greece.
And she goes, "That's him." He goes, "Get out of here."
That's pretty
Your
cool.
husband's not Chauncey Hayden.
That's
how big the
Yeah.
magazine had become.
Oh my
Where
God.
I would be out, I would be traveling,
Yeah.
and people would spot me on the street. And of course, Howard Stern had a lot to do with that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we have to get into that.
yeah, we'll get into that too. But to answer your question about Steppin Out, yeah, it became iconic.
Yes.
When you saw your magazine on Entertainment Tonight, which, by the way, John Tesh is his favorite musician of all time.
Oh,
So,
right, yeah, that's right, that's right, yeah.
Archie's a big John Tesh fan.
Such a putz.
Like, did you feel like, wow, so I essentially started this, what I'm doing, on a goof almost, just to meet somebody, and now it's turning into, now it's a monster.
Now my name is known everywhere, and I'll tell you, everybody has the moment where they think they made it and they think they arrived, and you could say Stern for me, all that stuff. It wasn't. It was one incident, and I'll tell you. So I'm driving home with the publisher of Stepping Out's in the car with me. We're driving home, and do you remember Bob Grant?
Radio?
Radio.
Yeah.
Bob Grant was
Hey,
like.
do you remember fucking anybody or?
Dude, when were you born again? Just so I can adjust my.
Listen, and to the people at home, to clarify, Chauncey had a traumatic brain injury. He looks like he did. He didn't. Anyway.
Do you remember Johnny Carson?
Of course.
There we
Of course.
I'm just trying to get the playing field. Where I need to know.
I know a lot.
How far back do you go?
I know a lot of useless shit, but then there's some stuff that slipped through the cracks.
All right. Well, Bob Grant was on WABC radio here in New York, and I think became syndicated. Mm-hmm. And he was like the Howard Stern before Howard Stern. Some people called him a racist. He was so ultra conservative. He was like Rush Limbaugh before Rush Limbaugh.
Okay.
You know, he was a legend.
Yeah.
And so we're driving home, and he was the radio guy in the afternoon, and he goes, "I'm going to read an article that came out this past week," and the writer nailed this one to the point where I have to spend the next hour going over every word of this story. And breaking it down because he just it's so I could not have done a better job. It's perfectly worded, and the story was called Michael Jackson: Portrait of a Pedophile by Chauncey Hayden.
Wow!
And he read the entire 6-page story that I wrote.
What year was this?
This is 1842, right before the big Civil War.
Where was
No,
that?
this was when did this happen?
Yeah,
this
like
had to
what?
be the mid '90s. Like 96.
So this is before it really, really, really came out. So the sad.
Michael Jackson. Yeah. I mean,
Oh, this
Like,
it
this
was
is like-
during-
there were
it
signs.
was during the first
There were
trial.
signs.
It was after the first trial
Okay.
where he paid the kid off $12 million.
Oh, geez. All right.
So he paid the kid up from Wyckoff here, right up from Wyckoff. He paid the kid $12 million to stop pressing charges.
Got it.
And so
Okay.
the story was based around that, and that you don't pay $12 million if you're innocent. A kid saying you're a
Yeah.
pedophile. So anyway, I wrote the story, and to me that was that was amazing because I really, this guy was a huge influence on me in the way he thought and just everything about Bob Grant was just awesome. So for him to do that meant a lot to me. And then it just snowballed. I became an on-air Fox guy. I used to do Fox News all the time. I did CNN. I did MSNBC. I did everything. Well, Alan's telling me what?
Finish the story. Sorry.
What?
No, go ahead.
You were in the car with the publisher.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Oh, he said I should get a raise.
No.
What?
Who called you?
Who called me?
You were in the car with Larry, the publisher, right?
Yeah.
The phone rang and it was the producer for Bob Graham.
Yeah.
You didn't tell that part of the story.
What?
You told about Bob Graham. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
No,
please, go ahead.
go ahead.
You said I had a straight story. I was in the car with Larry Collins.
Yeah.
And do you remember who Bob Grant is? And
Yeah.
then you told the Bob Grant piece, but what happened in the car with Larry
Bob
Collins?
Grant read the story.
But you heard it on the radio with Larry in the
Yeah.
car.
Yes.
Didn't the producer call you?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, then I fucked the story up. So you
I,
just heard
I got to go home. That about wraps it up for me. I don't.
And the day that happened, I used to sell ads in Steppin Out.
Yeah.
And I delivered Steppin Out.
Okay.
And I was running around delivering Steppin Out, and I was a loyal Bob Grant listener. Like every fucking day, that guy was.
Yeah.
He was the be all end all. And that happens, and I'm driving around with that magazine with Michael Jackson on the cover, bringing it around, and I'm on not me, but the magazine's on the radio. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening right now. But it became so regular day to day with Chauncey, like especially with Stern.
It became. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, now, did you see an escalation now in the publication? Like from
Oh,
Steppin Out?
well, absolutely.
You had to have.
We went from a 16-page flyer to 50 pages, 60 pages, 80 pages to, I think our highest was about 130, Alan, 130. So, and the magazine started bringing in millions of dollars.
So the influx is ads. People want to advertise. and stuff.
Everybody wants to advertise because you got to also remember, at the time Howard Stern was talking about us every single day. Howard Stern was the biggest thing that ever happened in entertainment.
Of course.
Bigger than Johnny Carson, bigger than anything. Nobody ever saw anything like the popularity of Howard Stern. Yeah. Now, Howard Stern and Stepping Out became synonymous together. One went with the other.
Yep.
So every advertiser, every bar, every band wanted to be in that magazine, and Howard Stern is sure to talk about the next day.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's. There was one of the funniest moments was it's not funny. It's really and I shouldn't even say it, but it makes me laugh now. So Howard Stern, his thing was to make fun of Steppin Out. It's a parrot cage liner. It's the light your fire. You use Steppin Out.
Gotcha.
So in the news there was a story that a guy in Bergenfield had murdered a hooker. Chopped her up, put it in a garbage bag outside his front yard where he lived with his parents. And when they caught him, they said, "Where'd you find the hooker?" He said, "In the back page of Stepping Out." Oh. So Howard's reading this on the air, and he goes, "Oh my God, Robert, did you see this?" Like some guy says he was reading Stepping Out, Chauncey's magazine, and that's how he got his hooker. And so I'm in panic mode because I'm like, this is not good.
Yeah,
this is not good.
Not good.
This is not going to help advertising. So I call up, Howard puts me in, and he goes, "Dude, the killer found a hooker in the back of your magazine in the classified section. What do you got to say for yourself?" And I said, "I say one thing, that when you advertise and Stepping Out, it works." And I hung up.
I mean, just to be clear, all people that got hookers from Backpage of Stepping Out were not murderers. That
No.
to be this
was a very isolated situation.
Yeah.
But look, she was looking for a client. He was looking for a hooker. And he probably bought his knife back there too. He probably got that from our classified. So the advertising worked back then. It was before the internet, before social media. You really had no other way of getting that kind of information. There was no internet. Yeah, how do you follow? How do you follow that?
Well, all right. So what I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, but what I don't know is where did Howard Stern and Steppin Out? Where was the inception?
Where did we meet?
Where did we meet?
Okay, it happened pretty quick. I had gone up to Rockland County to do an interview with Sam Kinison.
Okay, that's awesome.
Don't just say Sam Kinison like you know who he is.
Oh, I fucking that's
like don't nod your head when I'm almost sure you don't know who he is.
No, I know.
He's not a political or historical figure, so yes, he knows who he
All right,
is.
so okay.
Politics.
So there's no importance. So okay. So I go to interview Sam Kinison, and he's
What do you think I am, 12?
I don't know. I don't know what you know.
I'm 45 years old. Believe me, I know Sam Kinison. Okay.
So I go to interview Sam Kinison, and he's so coked up and drunk, he can't do the interview. So his brother Bill comes out of the hotel room, and he goes, "Sam can't do it," you know. And we had already printed the magazine. You know, we had to have an interview with Sam Kinison. So instead of the interview, I wrote about what I watched that night on the stage and back in the hotel room, and basically trashed, hammered Sam. And 6 months go by, and Sam Kinnison's back, and he's playing Rascals.
Okay.
In
West
Orange.
So after the show, I go backstage, and the owner of Rascals says, "Hey, you want to say hi to Sam?" And I never really met Sam, you know. I mean, I was at the front of his hotel door, but I never met him. But yeah, I'd like to meet him. So I go backstage, and Sam Kinison and his brother come up to me, and the owner of the club goes, "This is Chauncey from Steppin Out." And Bill, brother, goes, "Who?" He goes, "Chauncey from Steppin Out." And he goes, "Wait a minute." And he pulls an issue out of his pocket from 6 months ago, and he goes, "You wrote this fucking article on Sam, this is the guy." And they both pounce on me, and it's a brawl. It's a
Seriously?
fight. Yeah,
Wow.
fight, full on fight.
In Rascals.
In the dressing room. Yeah.
Get the fuck
full on
out.
fight.
Okay.
So it ends up in the newspaper the next day. And Howard's reading the newspaper, you know, in the morning. He goes, "So, you know, Sam's coming in today, and it's good that he's coming today, because did you read what happened last night? This guy named Chauncey Hayden and Sam had a fight at a comedy club in New Jersey." And so I called in, and Howard started like saying, "Dude," he goes, "Steppin Out." He goes, "Come on, this is the greatest thing ever." He goes, "What are you pressing charges, you know, for this for?" He goes, "You owe Sam." He goes, "Dude, it's Steppin Out. Like, what is that, a gay magazine? Like you're stepping out of the closet." He goes, "Is this one of those flyers you see in bars?" He goes, "This is the grace." He goes, "Dude, come on, it's a great." He goes, "What is Steppin Out?" So I started telling him. He goes, "So wait, let me get this straight. You edit the magazine, you sell the ads." He goes, do you put a broom up your ass and sweep the floor at the end of the day?"
That's none of your business.
He goes, and he did this whole hour rap on how funny it was that I did. So from that day on, Howard saw gold in my character and
Personality.
and Stepping Out.
Yeah.
He just saw gold in it, and I saw gold in it. And what I started to do, since every week I have to interview these big names, I always threw one question in. "Hey, what do you think of Howard Stern?" Just threw it in there, you know.
Why not?
And if they said something outrageous, I would type it up, send it over to Stern, and the next week he'd be talking about Steppin Out Magazine and how this Lane, you know, Ellen DeGeneres said this about him, or Kathy Lee said this about him. And the magazine got so much press from that. You know,
genius.
And it got so big that when Howard wrote his book Private Parts, he asked me to collect all those questions I had asked over the years, and he put them all in the book in boxes. So he thanks me in the front of the book, Private Parts, and all my questions and all the celebrity answers are in the book.
That's great. That's great.
And for 20 years,
you made this happen.
They made it happen.
You made it happen.
Yeah.
Talk about creating something.
But I couldn't. You couldn't plan it.
No.
You couldn't plan it.
No.
It all had to happen organically.
Yes.
Like it was like I fell over a rock and hit another rock and hit another rock, and I just kept tripping over myself, and all these things kept occurring.
And it was consistent throughout the years, right? So he would have you on.
It got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. It
just kept getting bigger
next
until
thing you're fighting with Ronnie.
Well, then fighting with Ronnie, but then it got so big, it got too big. Then we got sued together. If you remember, I know you don't know this. Okay. You might know this, but I know you don't know this. So if you know this, you're going to shock me.
Okay.
Did you watch the pay-per-view beauty pageant when Stern had it in the early 90s?
No.
All right. So the woman that came in second name was Debbie Tay. Do you know Debbie Tay?
The remains of Debbie Tay.
Yes.
Wasn't she killed? She was.
I'll-
Did you bring in something? I remember.
Yeah,
This.
so,
Okay,
all right,
yeah,
so,
yeah,
so
yeah. I remember the story.
This
though.
was when things started getting a little too crazy. So that was my girlfriend, right? My soulmate, my girlfriend.
Oh, that was your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So now the story gets just a little sidebar to the story. So I gotta say this to set it up. But at the time, there was a club in New York called the Click Club. It was a lesbian club.
Okay.
And
he knows about
you
it.
probably, I'm sure you know the Click Club.
How'd they come up with that name?
From your lesbian years, you probably. Well, do you remember? Right. Do you remember when the Gap ads used to have this Asian with a crew cut, this girl, and she had a wrench on her arm, Jenny Shimizu.
Okay.
She was the face of the Gap in the '90s. So she had a crush on my Debbie. Right?
Okay.
They had a crush, and now. Angelina Jolie.
There you go, wheelhouse.
I'm in.
So she had a crush on Jenny. So these
Okay.
three girls, my Debbie, Jenny, the supermodel,
Yeah.
and Angelina Jolie. And they all were friends. And they all had one thing in common, they were all heroin addicts. So I got my Debbie clean. I got her off it. Right here at Valley Hospital, in fact. I dragged her on my shoulder. So she's clean now. Jenny and Angelina Jolie are going to Washington State to make a movie called Foxfire.
Okay.
It was Angelina Jolie's first movie, and because she loved Jenny, she got her in the movie. Now they need to shoot heroin every day to stop and not be sick, but they didn't have any. They didn't have any connections up there, so they call my Debbie to score for them on West Houston Street to ship the heroin up to Jenny and Angelina Jolie.
All right.
My Debbie does it, but because she's a recovering addict, she has like 20 bags of heroin on the bed. And she was actually house sitting for one of the guys at Murphy's Law. So it was one of the guys who lived on Avenue C from Murphy's Law. She's house sitting. And the next day I call her up to say, hey, what'd you do with those bags? You didn't ship them. You know, you're gonna get busted, you're gonna go to jail, just throw that shit in the garbage. And a policeman answers her cell phone. Sergeant Rodriguez. I'm like, oh. I go, is Debbie there? He goes, oh yeah, she's here. I go, am I allowed to talk to her? You know, where am I gonna, how do I bail her out? He goes, you can't talk to her. I said, well, when can I? He said, never, because she's dead.
Wow.
And I remember I fainted. It was unbelievable, and I was a mess.
Yeah.
So I had her cremated, and Angelina Jolie was supposed to pay for the cremation, and she never did. Her publicist stopped the whole thing. I still have an issue with her because of it. But Howard Stern heard that she was connected to the Stern Show because she was always on the show too, and he didn't know that she and I were together. So he says, this is amazing. Oh my God, and you have her ashes. He goes, would you come into the studio and we'll do a memorial? And I said, I'll do it because I think Debbie would think it's funny and she'd get it.
Yeah.
But you have to do a free promotion for the harms recovery program in the village for heroin addicts. It's not funded, it's privately funded. I said, that's where Debbie tried to get clean.
Okay.
She goes, okay. So we go into the studio, and I have the urn. Howard, this is on the internet, by the way. You can see this on YouTube. He takes the box and he opens it up. And I didn't know this, but there's two ways you can cremate someone. You can pulverize the body, which is when you see someone throws ashes and blow, or you just get a basic cremation, which is chunks like this, like. The pieces like this. Bone like this. It's not grounded up.
Gotcha.
So he goes, Robin, these aren't ashes. Debbie's still in here. And he picks up a bone. He goes, I think this is her left breast. And this is when the show was on TV. So this is on TV.
Okay.
And he goes through this whole thing. Now, she was estranged from her family, but her family is still alive. They hear this, and they sued Stern for $10 million, me for $10 million, Infinity Broadcasting for $10 million, and K-Rock for $10 million.
Yeah.
And it went to the Supreme Court, the lawsuit. And we were one day from going to trial, and the Supreme Court had to decide if this was a case that could be put before them or if it should be thrown out. And they came up with a judgment, which now is in all the Harvard law books and in law books for every major law university in the country. What is defamation? And you would think, well, if you brought somebody's ashes into a show and made fun of them, that's defamation. What more can you do?
Defamation.
But what the Supreme Court ruled was that you can't defame someone who's dead. And a family that is hurt by that, they're not being defamed. Their feelings are hurt, but they're not being defamed. The person that's being defamed is dead. So I can say Abraham Lincoln was a flaming homosexual. Okay. Now, his family couldn't sue me for
Wait,
that.
hold on a second. Do you know who Abraham Lincoln is?
No, he was I got it, you're right. Good
Subway commercial?
You gotta check.
Good point.
You gotta check.
That's the car dealership on 17. That's Lincoln Ford, Lincoln Mercury. You might have heard of them.
All right.
So the Supreme Court said no. This while vulgar, no question about it, vulgar and tasteless. The family has no right for compensation because this doesn't meet the framework of what is defamation. And it set the rules going forward of who can be defamed and who can't. You cannot defame a dead person.
All right.
So
wow.
You can thank me for that, everybody.
There you go.
My contribution.
Making a difference in law.
Making a difference everywhere, isn't he?
Wow.
And then there was the last time we got sued. Well, then there was the final time that got me booted off the show.
Yes.
And that was
All right, so we got your start.
Yes.
And now we're gonna fast forward. We know what happened in the middle. We're gonna fast forward to the end.
And the John.
How we got your finish.
Oh, then we got the Get John's Job thing.
The Get John's Job.
Where I had hookers come on the show. They stayed over at my house and they robbed my wife blind. But you don't want to hear that story.
That doesn't sound interesting at all.
I'll tell you that story quick. So I was asked to audition for John's Job, and Stoning John left the show.
Yeah.
So for a week, I had to produce the show. So I had to come up with bits every day. So one of the bits I came up with was the Harlem Ho beauty pageant. And the way to do that, I thought, was to go to Harlem, find a pimp, pay him $500 to bring all his hoes back to New Jersey with me down the street over here in Glen Rock, and then at 5 in the morning, take them to the studio. What could go wrong? What could possibly
Sounds
go
like
wrong?
a good plan.
Well
thought out.
Well thought out. I had all my bases covered. So I found a guy named Rambo, who was a pimp in Harlem. He got 8 of his hoes came into my Pathfinder, and I drove them to New Jersey, to Glen Rock, put them all in my basement with a couple of bottles of wine, and I said, I'll see you at 5 o'clock in the morning. We got to go do the show. And so whatever they did. Whatever happened down there happened. I went to bed to get ready for the show. So next morning, the sprinklers are going on, the paper boy's throwing the paper, and out comes 7 hoes. You know, where they got blood sores, they have scabs on their faces, and you can imagine what they look like, and they're drunk, and they're half naked, and they're coming, and the paper boy's like,
what?
the
fuck?
Yeah, and I get them in the car, and we go to do the show. And the show's a success. It really was. It was one of the greatest moments of pageants on the Stern Show. So during this time, my wife is traveling, of course. She wouldn't have gone for this. So she's not home. But 3 days later...
But do you make that call ahead of time and say, honey, listen, now...
No, I didn't think that was necessary. So she comes home 3 days later. Actually, she was gone that whole week because she wanted me to get the house. She wanted the house just to be quiet, and she knew I was auditioning, so she went to stay with friends. Yeah. So she comes back 3 days later, and she's upstairs in her closet, and I hear, "Hey, Chauncey." I'm like, "Yep." She goes, "Where are all my shoes and perfume?" She had over 300 pairs of designer shoes she had collected. My shoes are all gone, and my perfume's all gone. And I'm sitting at the bottom of the stairs, and like AI, like a billion, trillion excuses are running through my mind. And I'm like, I gotta have one good, there's gotta be one good lie, it's gotta be one, pull one out. And there was nothing. And I just remember going, I had hookers I had 7 hookers stay at the house for the Stern Show, and they wouldn't be able to get up in the morning, so they stayed here, and I think they robbed us.
And the truth is behind door number 2.
And it looks like they robbed us, honey.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
So that was Yeah, that was one thing. And then I brought Beetlejuice's sister in, which was
I heard about that
unforgettable.
one. That's fucking...
That was unforgettable.
How would you even track her down? How would you even...
Because
begin to-
Sean, God rest his soul, he used to be the old manager of Beetlejuice. He has since passed. He said to me, when he knew I was auditioning for the show, he said, Chaunce, he goes, no one knows this. He goes, but Beetlejuice has a sister, and she's exactly like him.
Oh
she
my
has
God.
the same problem. He goes, she said she would never come on the show, but I'm just telling you this, and here's her number. If you can convince her, he goes, that would be fucking brilliant. So I call her up, and she's like a little girl. She's grown, but she has the mentality of like a 5-year-old. So you have to talk to her like a 5-year-old.
Gotcha.
I'm like, sweetie, you know, it would mean a lot to your brother to come on. And she goes, well, I'll only come on if you come with me and if you hold my hand the whole time. And I said, Erica, I'll hold your hand. I'll never let it go. You can just squeeze my hand. And when you get nervous, you squeeze my hand 2 times, and I'll know you're getting nervous. And then we'll step out of the studio and we'll calm down again. I said, so I got you. And so she held my hand really. I got her to come on. She held my hand so tight. And you can see all this on YouTube too. And I walk her in, and she squeezes me twice. And I go, we have to go outside for a minute. I took her back into the green room. I said, she goes, I don't think I can do it. I said, well, why don't you? And we talked. And she said, well, okay, you sit next to me the whole time. And Howard was like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened on the show. Like, bar none. This is it. Like, it was almost like I went to some faraway land, and in a wooden crate, I reeled in this, the missing link. I said, here it is, everybody. So, yeah.
A lot of good stories, a lot of good press, a lot of good bits.
And
for
then
that
the
show.
end came.
And then the end came.
And then the end came, and that was all over. I was doing a show for ABC News called Tattletales, and Gigi Stone, the host, said to me after one show, she goes, you're friends with Howard. When his contract runs out, where's he going? What's he going to do? Is he going to XM? I said, no, definitely not going to XM. Opie and Anthony are XM. It's not going to go where they are.
Yeah.
I said, if you're into investing, I would invest everything I have into Sirius. And at the time, Sirius was like a penny stock, and it was nobody was on it.
Nope.
And she said, really? I said, everything you got, Sirius. That's where he's going. 6 months later, I'm in the studio. And Howard says, I have to make an announcement, start the show. He said, Robin, Fred, Gary, I'm going to Sirius Satellite Radio when my contract runs out. And the stock goes shooting up. The SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, goes, hold on a second. This guy is friends with Howard. He's in the studio with him when he makes the announcement. This is the guy that 6 months earlier said, bet everything you have on Sirius, and this is what he's doing. They thought that Howard leaked that information to me, so the stock would go up, and he would buy it as a penny stock, and then people would start investing. So I got a call at the office saying, this is the SEC, we need to come in for a subpoena.
Yikes.
And I said, fuck you, Sal, and I hung up the phone. He called back again, goes, you got to come in. Fuck you. And so the next day in FedEx, I got a subpoena in the mail from the SEC. And I'm like, they don't FedEx you a subpoena from the SEC. And so I called my buddy at the New York Post, who was the editor of the business section. I said, look at this and tell me if it's fake or if it's real. He goes, send it over. I'll know in a minute if it's fake. And this is a Friday.
Yeah.
I fax it over. I get no comment. No, he doesn't call me back or nothing, so I just forget it. I assume it's fake. I'm going to Dunkin' Donuts the next day in Glen Rock, and the New York Post is there. And there's my subpoena on the front cover of the New York Post with Howard's face. The front cover of the New York Post. And that was the end of Howard Stern.
Was that like in Goodfellas when Paulie had to turn his back on Henry?
That
was just it.
He had to turn his back. He had to turn his back. Yeah. That's how that ended.
Arch, before we move on to the books, because I want to talk about those.
Of course.
What was, I only could read bits and pieces of it, but wasn't there also controversy with Opie, from Opie and Anthony, with his wife?
Yes.
Are you able to talk about that?
Yes, I can talk about it. I've been sued so many times for millions and millions of dollars. So with Opie. So a guy who used to be the producer of the show, Rick Delgado, used to be the producer of the Opie and Anthony show. He calls me up and says, and this is when I was writing a lot for Page 6. Post. And he said, I got a great item for you. He goes, you know Bam from MTV? I said, yeah, of course. Bam from MTV. Okay, yeah, so...
Wheelhouse.
Got it. So he goes, you know, Opie's fiance is having sex with him in like those little Easter egg things they keep in CDs. You know, like you wouldn't know it's on there.
Yeah, it's like little hidden messages.
Yeah. You'd have to actually put it in, and it's in there hidden. You wouldn't know it. So Bam on a CD put it in there, like as a goof of him having sex with Opie's girlfriend. So I said, wow, that's a big story. That actually is a good one. I said, let me make some calls. So I called the other producer. Well, I can't think of his name right now, but the guy, another producer for the show, Opie and Anthony. He goes, yeah, dude, it's true. It's true. And he goes, I have it. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to mail it to you so you can look at it and see for yourself. I said, great. So I call Page 6 up and I go, you're not going to believe what I'm being told, that Opie's fiance is on a Bam CD having sex, like a sex tape, and they both producers swear it's true. But
now this is just audio that you're hearing, or like
I haven't seen anything yet.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm just being told this.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I said the one producer is sending me the CD to look at, so I can see this thing and say, yeah. He goes, oh, this is great. He goes, okay. He goes, you work it on your end, and I'll work it on my end. And I said, okay, I'll let you know when I get the CD, and we'll figure out what we're going to do. The very next day, in Page 6, Chauncey Hayden of Steppin Out Magazine says that Opie's fiance is having sex with Bam and an Easter egg. I'm like, dude, that's not what we said. I never saw anything. I'm waiting for the CD to come. You motherfucker. You fucked me. So, of course, I get, Opie and Anthony are killing me on the show that whole week. You know, and I get a lawsuit. The magazine gets a lawsuit, and I get a lawsuit for $10 million for slander. And so it went through the first series. Now, remember, we never printed anything in Stepping Out. Never wrote anything about it. Never printed anything about it. I just happened to tell Page 6 that there's rumors about it.
Yeah.
That's as much guilt as there is. If that makes you guilty, that you told a gossip column there's a rumor of his tape, I mean, it's...
Yeah.
And so the court threw it out. But Opie was so mad about this that he appealed it, and it went to the Supreme Court. Now, this is when the story gets good. My lawyer, his name was Darnay Hoffman. He was married to the Mayflower Madam in New York City. She was the one that all the hookers, like she gave him to all the celebrities and stuff. That's his wife. So Darnay looks like Columbo. Looks like Columbo.
That's actually my favorite TV show of all time.
And I knew that. That's why I turned.
Excuse me? Just one more thing.
Well, you do know.
I know Columbo.
It's really...
I mean, I might have been more of a Matlock guy, but fine. Okay, go ahead.
So he looks like Columbo. And he's got like a short tail hanging out. His tie is crooked. He has two mismatching socks. And he has a big gut. And that's my lawyer. And he goes, he also represented Bernie Getz. Remember Bernie Getz?
Oh, yeah. Subway Vigilante.
Bernie Getz?
Yeah, anyway.
Leo Getz. When Leo wants Leo Getz?
He's like, wait a minute, hold on. Is that
Lethal Weapon.
I know him from a lyric.
Bernie Getz was the Subway Vigilante. Come on.
Why, he hated
Bernie Getz.
He hated sandwiches?
Oh, God. All right, so anyway, that's who my lawyer represented. And this would be a great game show, by the way. You can bet money, like to come up with topics and say, I'm putting 20 that I... we can make a whole game.
We're actually taking it further. We have a segment coming up in this season. It's called Dummy on a Gummy. So he's going to take a gummy, and I'm going to ask him questions that I think he should know.
That's what,
we'll see.
Kind of exactly what I just said. Yeah. But all right. But is that your way? So I don't see you in court now? He didn't say gummy. He never said gummy. That was my idea. The gummies were my idea. So anyway, so Darnay's my lawyer. And we go to depositions, and there's Opie, and there's Richard Johnson of the New York Post, and there's the fiance crying, and Darnay's got spaghetti stains, and it's like on the 20th floor of this high-rise office building in Wall Street, and at the deposition, their lawyer asks a billion questions, and then he goes to Darnay. He goes, "Do you have any questions?" And Darnay goes, I can't think of anything. I'm like, what? I have questions. He goes, nah, Charlie, no questions. Nah, we're good. And we walk out. I said, what did you do? We're gonna lose. He goes, let me tell you something, Chaunce. He goes, see how I look? Pretty disheveled, huh? I said, yes, you do. And he goes, probably looks like I don't know what I'm doing, huh? I said, you don't. You don't. You didn't ask a question. He goes, got him where I want him. And he did. And he walked out, and that was it. So then we go to court, we go to trial, and I didn't even show up. I didn't even show up. So I get a call. He goes, yeah, so the trial's over. We won. You're welcome. And he goes, I couldn't believe it. I can't believe I'm off the hook for millions. He goes, yeah, no, we won. We won. He goes, you owe me a sandwich. Buy me a sandwich next time you see me. Oh my God. So the next day in the paper, Darnay Hoffman comes up on my Google thing. I'm like, oh, it's probably about the case that we won. So I click on it. Took a knife and shoved it through his heart and killed himself that night.
What?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
He won my case, went home, and put a steak knife through his heart.
Did they say why?
Just suicide.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah. What else you got? Come on, bring on the questions. Bring them on.
So let's talk your trilogy of books.
Yes, 3 books.
None are released yet, but
nope, they're all finished and at the printer.
So, but from what I ascertained, one's about musicians, one's about comedians, right? Is that?
Well, when I decided to write these books, I had to go back and look at 30 years of interviews. And you're talking about every week for 30 years. So there's thousands. And how do you pick and choose? And it was daunting. So I thought, at first I was going to do one book and just mix them all up. And I thought that would be great. But in terms of selling the books, I said, well, listen, if you're into comedy, it would be much better to have 50 amazing, iconic interviews with comedians over the last 30 years. I interviewed Richard Pryor on his deathbed as he's dying of MS. Wow. And I got to talk to him about it. Things like this, or George Carlin, so many great ones. So I said, I'm going to do a comedy book with 50 interviews of comedians. And then I had so many rock guys, so many of every genre of music.
I can't wait.
You could imagine.
I can't wait till this comes
Just,
out.
I mean, everything. So I said, I'm going to do my 50 best rock. And then all the others, politicians, mobsters, Hollywood, sports, you name it, all in one book, kind of mixed up. And that's how I came up with the 3. I thought it was just a perfect threesome.
Was it something you said?
Was it something you said?
Was it something you said?
Yeah.
Sex, drugs, and laughter?
Yeah.
And then the third one is that correct? The Voices, 30 years of music?
Yeah, well, it's actually, that was a working title.
Okay, all right.
I think the title they're going with is Music, 30 Years of Interviews.
Okay,
it's just going to say music in big letters and 30 years of interviews.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
Arch, wasn't that the title what they called when you lost your virginity?
The Voices?
Sex, drugs, and laughter.
No, my BFF. Well, I'm a big rock guy. So that's going to be something like I saw David Lee Roth.
Oh, that's a great one. Can I tell you how I got him to talk to me? So I requested an interview with him, and he turned me down. And first he said yes. And then they did some homework, and they saw Stepping Out was a flyer on top of bars. So his manager comes back and goes, nah, he's not going to do that. And I said, what? I said, he already said he'd do it. He goes, no, dude, come on, he's not going to do Stepping Out. And so I said, all right. At the time, I was writing a gossip column at Scores in New York. Remember Scores? Yeah. So I had a column called...
That he knows.
Yeah. What are you, crazy? I called Eye on Scores. And I would write about all the shit that went on behind the scenes there, sponsored by Scores. So they would tell me all this shit. So I had so much dirt on David Lee Roth. So I told this manager, I said, okay, well, here's the thing. We already printed the cover with David on it. I said, now, if he's not going to do an interview, then what I'm going to do is interview the 5 strippers he got pregnant at Scores. And they're going to tell their story about David's children. And 5 minutes go by. Oh no, they'd be happy to do it. No, Chaunce. I got it. I got it wrong. Yeah. No, Dave, are you kidding me?
Dave said,
yeah, so he did the interview.
Gotcha. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's all. I saw. What else did I see? I saw Slash.
Yeah,
I saw. But then on the other, I think it might have been the laughter. You said prior, Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah.
Your list.
It's insane.
Your list of who's. It's not just like. I don't really know this guy. I don't really know. No, you fucking know everyone.
It's educational. It's actually educational. It's an entire generation upon another generation of people that created the culture that we have today. It really is. Then Robert Klein. Remember Robert Klein and the HBO specials?
Yep.
When HBO first became a thing, they started these 1-hour comedy specials. Robert Klein, I can't stop my leg. I can't stop my. That was like the first one, and then followed by George Carlin, and I had all these guys sitting down with me.
I think Belzer was in one
Belzer,
of those.
we got Belzer. It's just Gilbert Gottfried. The list is who's who.
Will any of these will you do any like an audio book, or these are just going to be straight up books that
he's asking because he can't read.
You might actually you might actually have to read it. So you have to read it.
And when
although maybe an audio book.
When are these going to come out?
Well, it looks like the first one's coming out in March. That's our goal. That's what we're shooting for.
Okay.
And then 3 months after that, the second one, and then 3 months after that, by the summertime,
awesome.
We'll have all 3 out. That's what we're shooting for.
Yeah. How does it feel? I mean, you said you talked to George Carlin. Like, this guy is like, by all standards, every comedian is influenced by him. They reference him. He's smart. He's articulate. He's. Do you feel intimidated talking to a guy like that?
I did feel intimidated, and I left disappointed because I'm a huge George Carlin fan. When I was a kid, when I was like 10 years old, I remember having all his albums, and I would just sit there with the stereo playing George Carlin records. He influenced so much of my thought process as an adult. And then when I met him, I spoke to him, it's like, he wasn't really a good guy. Like, he just was kind of a dick.
Yeah.
You really felt like you were working interviewing him. It wasn't like you had a rapport going.
Sure.
I felt like this guy was like making me really work to get answers out of him. So I left disappointed in him, which happened quite a bit with the comedians. Not with the rock guys. The rock guys are always very cool. Tommy Lee was amazing.
Big dick.
Tommy,
I heard.
I don't know if you say so, but no, the rock guys always were like, man, this party.
Yeah.
But the comedians, a lot of times, you really had to work.
Awesome.
Because they're not doing their act.
Yeah.
They're not doing their act.
Yeah.
So you're talking to them like people, where you only know them as being funny as hell, and that's not who they are. They're miserable fucking people. That makes them funny.
Antonella Barba.
What?
Antonella Barba.
Is that your
I'm not. When we leave here, I'm beating you up. She remember the girl from American Idol who got caught giving blowjobs?
Yes.
So she's in the book.
Oh.
Yeah, she's
a good singer.
Well, she ended up going to prison for many years because she was transporting fentanyl across the country.
She started it.
And she got busted, and she ended up going to federal prison.
Jesus Christ.
And we jammed with her at the office is right here in Fairlawn, right?
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Sang a mashup with her.
I'm sorry about this.
No, that's fine. Off camera, Alan Tecchio. We're gonna put a little lower third.
He's coming out.
I'm joking. Yeah, Alan's actually the only one who ever supported when things got bad for me. He was the only one that was there for me. Only one. So I owe this guy everything.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We're gonna have Alan on if he's.
Yeah, you gotta.
If he agrees after seeing this, if he agrees to it.
You mean after if you guys agree to it?
So please tell everybody before we lose time. Please tell everybody where that they could find your books, where they could find you, and thank you very much for coming.
This is awesome.
From Ireland.
You guys are from Ireland, from Monaghan, Ireland. It's like that John Wayne movie. What was Quiet Man? Sorry.
Yeah.
It's like The Quiet Man, the John Wayne.
Yeah.
John Wayne.
John Wayne Gacy.
I would say follow me on social media. Chauncey Hayden 100 on Instagram. Chauncey Hayden on X. No Y, CHAUNCEHAYDEN. And of course, Facebook, Chauncey Hayden. And I'll be updating every day, every week, going up to the day the book is released. So and thank you guys. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
It's nice therapy for me to talk about my crazy life.
Well, I was gonna say before we cut away. This had to be going back and reading all these interviews. This had to be some kind of like a cathartic feeling for you, like to.
I'll be in a corner crying later.
Oh wow! Knowing that you came and did this podcast today.
On the way to the airport, I'm gonna pull off the side of the road and just curl up into a ball. And
He's gonna say that dumb motherfucker with the hat that I just interviewed me. He doesn't know what he's doing. Doesn't know anything about anything.
You know where I'm going after this? Iceland.
Wow.
Because I had to get a flight to come here.
Yeah.
I had to get a stopover, so I have to fly to Iceland to get back to Ireland. So that's my day today. What are you guys doing?
I'm going to be doing experiments with my daughters.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
How about that?
It's all right.
Little baking soda, little food dye.
I've been there.
So-
Made volcanoes erupt. I did all that.
That's what
yeah.
I'll be doing today.
We got to
Awesome.
give him a tip though, right, Arch? You single in Ireland?
I'm eternally single. Look at this face.
How's the come on, handsome guy here? How's the dating scene there?
There's no dating. Depending where you live in Dublin, it's probably pretty good. I can't explain enough to you where you'll believe me when I say there's one street in my town. One street with a couple of shops, a sewing shop, a shop where you buy hay for your horse. There's one clothing shop where you buy basic boots
He
for
said
the mud.
Hay for your horse. Wow.
Hay for horses and cows and sheep. There's nothing. Where I live, there's nothing. Nothing. And the 4 girls that live there, they don't want any part of me. Like I scare them. I think I scare you guys. Imagine how I scare them.
Oh,
so I'm very isolated in Ireland. I'm very alone.
Do you see him making a shepherd's pie?
Yeah.
He's known as the American.
They call me the Yank. They call me the Yank.
The Yank.
All right, so
But I have my daughter, and my daughter is my best friend.
Yes.
And
it's all that matters.
every day I tell her, "You bitch! Why did you have to be born in Ireland? Hawaii, Florida. There was a million
Somewhere
places.
warm.
Thailand. We all get been having fun."
So when you get back to Ireland,
Yeah.
to the 4 ladies that live in your town,
Yes.
you say, "Hey, are you originally from Ireland? Because my penis is Dublin."
Jesus Christ. On that, thank you very much, everyone.
Now if that doesn't get him,
the great Chauncey Hayden. Everyone, please subscribe.
Thank you, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Los Angeles.
safe trip back.
Thank you
so much.
My hands are free.
This is a lot better than doing it by Skype or Zoom.
Yes.
However we were going to do it.
We gotta have you on again when you actually come out, though. You good?
Oh, that was really fun. Real.
If you just heard us talking to our boy Chauncey Hayden, you know Sabbath is better than Maiden, and Eli's more clutch than Peyton, and you know Scorpion will say, "Get over here," before he pulls a fatality on Raiden, then you just listen to Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast.
We out.